I'm Steve Ardrius here at the Davenport Theatre with writer, director of the current off-Broadway play, Afterglow, Asher Gelman, or S. Asher Gelman?
Either is fine.
Okay, good, yeah. First of all, congratulations on the play. I saw it. I really, it provoked so much in my mind and my friends. But you've been extended, yes?
Yes. We've been extended until September 16th, so if you hadn't had the chance to see it yet, you should come see it. Now there's more time.
Is this your second extension? Did I read that?
This is the second extension, yes.
That's great.
Yes.
That has to be, I mean, it's your first play.
It's my first play.
You have to be, like, stoked about that.
It's kind of been a dream project, the whole experience. First of all, I'm working with such spectacular collaborators on this, from everyone from the designers to their assistants to, of course, the actors and just everybody involved. It's just been a dream project, and I couldn't be more proud of it.
Nice. And the play, and so our audience knows a little bit, is about three guys. Two of them are a married couple planning to have a surrogacy with a baby, and they open the steamy scene that we are sitting right in right now. We're on stage. Is a threesome, a very hot threesome, and they bring in a third character, Darius, correct?
Correct.
And that's when the drama ensues and everything begins. First of all, the play's been extended, and now it's a one-act play?
So we had the rare opportunity. Usually, you open a play,
right,
and the play is locked and it's frozen, and that's the way it's going to be forever.
Right.
And we kind of asked ourselves, like, why does that have to be the case? You know, I get, like, when you see a movie, I see it now and I see it in 3 years and it's still the same movie.
Right.
But theater is live. I mean, it's performed live. So why can't we, like, make tweaks and fix it? And actually, we had this wonderful process where everybody sort of came together and said, hey, like, after we've been sitting in this show for a month and a half, like, we kind of feel like we would like to play around with it some more. And of course, that's every director and writer's dream, to be able to say, hey, yeah, like, let's go back into rehearsal and tweak things and fix things and make things stronger. So we took a 2-act play with an intermission and cut it down to 85 minutes, no intermission, to give a seamless experience of the whole story. Wow. And it's just it was amazing to go back into rehearsal and just, get the whole team back together again and build basically almost a new show.
Wow. I mean, again, it has to, your first play, you've been extended, and you've mentioned a few times off camera too, the collaborative experience, how important that is. Mm-hmm. That's just got to be, like I said, to play around with different endings. And in this case, because it deals with, I don't know if you ever say it in the show, but on my podcast, we talked about open relationships, and we used it, at least in our show. And it sparked a whole lot of conversation. But because, as I'm sure you know, open relationships can mean so many different things, was that part of the area that you got to play with without giving too much away?
I will say that with the old version of the show, there was, I think, a lot of confusion as far as what the show's stance was on non-monogamous relationships. And listen, this show, regardless, you take away from it what you bring into it. Your personal history is going to be so much related to your experience of it. And I think a lot of people took away that this was a cautionary tale sort of against non-monogamous relationships. And so that was something that we wanted to lean into a little bit more as far as specifying the message of the show, that it wasn't a judgment on
one way is
or
right
non-monogamy.
Right.
Exactly. And that it's more about communication and
I like that.
sort of, and what happens if and when communication breaks down.
Right, and all the things that ensue.
Exactly.
I mean, you took on, for your first play, at least for the gay community, a big topic, because in my conversation that I had on the show, my podcast, we talked about, open relationships in the gay community can go in so many different directions. We had a couple on the show, and theirs is sort of a don't ask, don't tell type of thing. In the show, it's clear at the beginning that they're bringing somebody in and they play together with somebody. Others have, no kissing. I mean, it's on and on and on of the rules. And I'm just curious, was any of this inspired by your own? I understand you're married, or was this, yes? Did it, and was it hard to come up with one viewpoint on the open relationship?
Well, I think when it comes to non-monogamy, the rules that you set are just the fights you're going to get in later. My husband and I have been together for 8.5 years, and we have been in an open relationship for the past 3.5. And I mean, the truth is that this play is inspired by real life events. Obviously, I've taken a lot of liberties with what happened, but ultimately, the message I think behind this play, or at least the takeaway, is that I want people to have the difficult conversation, whatever that is. And I know that this idea of monogamy versus non-monogamy and the various permutations of what that can look like is a very relevant topic now. Not just for the gay community, but it's also starting to seep into the straight community. And at least in my opinion, and again, this is just me, I think it doesn't really matter what type of relationship you're in, as long as you can be honest, as long as you can be sort of forthright with your partner as far as where you guys stand. So if you have a don't ask, don't tell policy, or if you tell each other everything, that's fine, just as long as you're both on the same page.
Right. And I think it's brilliant, too, as your play continues to evolve, so do relationships, right? When you agree, I mean, maybe sometime it's a don't ask, don't tell, but then a couple could change. I mean, it doesn't. I was telling my audience that, rules, if you want to use rules, can change, and that's the beauty of it. So.
Well, I think a lot of people see sort of non-monogamous relationships as some sort of slippery slope. Like you do this, and then that will lead to this, and then that will lead to this, and that will lead to this. And you can always change. You can always pull back. I mean, just because my husband and I are open right now doesn't mean they were always going to be open.
Right.
Currently, this is what's working for us, but in the future it might not, and that's a conversation that we're going to have if that changes.
One of the characters, Josh, is a playwright. Is any of
He's
his...
a director.
Director. Which you are as well.
I am also, yes.
Any of his character, the closest, if you had to say? Because we were playing that game. Out of the three, who did you relate to the most? And I related so much to the Darius characters, particularly a lot of his speeches when he talked about how hard it is to find somebody, and nowadays with the apps, it's, there's always somebody better lurking around the corner and whatever. So I'm just curious, would Josh be the one that you...
I mean, Josh is based on me.
Okay, good. Nice.
Josh and Darius is loosely based on the person who inspired him, very loosely.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
Very cool. So we have to definitely talk. We are sitting where a lot of the action happens. You have first of all, if the sets are amazing.
Well, for that I have to thank Ann Beiersdorfer, who she just designed this incredible set that basically we have these 7 or 8 elements that are constantly moving around the stage and transforming into various rooms and situations. And she just did such a beautiful job of telling this story in an interesting way.
Yeah, and they're like Lego pieces too. They kind of form, and your cast, the beauty of it is the cast kind of reform a table into a bed, into
a rooftop
and a couch, and which is really great. I understand you're a choreographer and you studied dance, and there's a lot of the little bit of choreography. Was that fun to kind of build that into the show, even though it's not dance? But
I mean, absolutely. For me, I've always had sort of one foot in dance and one foot in theater, and I'm constantly sort of shifting the weight, but never lifting one off.
Right.
So for me, ultimately, I asked myself, when building this piece, why theater? As in, like, why am I using theater as the medium to tell this story? Because the language is very cinematic. It's very much the way that real people talk. It's not stylized. It's not.
No, it's current.
It's very frank and honest and to the point. And so it was really interesting to me to be able to particularly use those transitions between scenes. Not only just to have the actors, like pick stuff up and move it, but actually to be able to tell story in those moments that, that I was able to tell twice the amount of story that I could just with text based on just moments of movement and just visual images. So for that, yes, I dug into my dance background to tell a story without words.
Yeah, and there's some great parts that are interpretive that reminded me a little bit of silent film, where you get what the transition is between the three characters, and I thought that was a nice pace that kept the show flowing.
Well, I think audiences are smarter than we give them credit for a lot of the time, and I think they can pick up on things without having it being so much explained to them. So, especially in the new version of the show, I mean, in the old version we were doing this as well, but we're really trying to show a lot more than we're telling.
Right.
So if you pay attention, you'll capture these moments, and I love to sort of give that as a gift to audience members who are who really like to tune in and like, oh, hey, there's that thing that I saw on stage and nobody said anything about it, but I get it.
Right. I have to talk about the three actors that you cast. First of all, they're great, but secondly,
spectacular.
They are. We get to see them naked on stage, and they all look great. How hard was that to cast? Because not only did they have to portray these characters you wrote, but I'm sure they had to look good since they want to look good too. So was it dicey to?
I mean, listen, I get a lot of questions about the casting process and did we have to see them naked or whatnot? None of that. It was very.
No, but you want them to look decent, not forget about the bottom half, but just the.
No. We kept everything very professional. Ultimately, while it is great that we have such attractive cast members, that was never the goal.
Right.
We really did want to find the people who really could best live in these roles, and Patrick, Brandon, and Robbie really just brought it at the audition process, and I couldn't have been more thrilled to be working with the three of them. They're just such talents, and I think in a lot. Casting was difficult in general because a lot of people were very afraid of this piece because it's raw, because it requires a lot of nudity. It's a very intimate piece, and I think people are afraid of that.
Right.
It's very interesting. We live in this culture where, on the one hand, we use sex to sell literally everything, but on the other hand, we're
so afraid of it.
We're supposed to be very embarrassed by it and afraid of it, and. That was something that kept coming up during the process of well, if there's nudity in it, it's going to be hard to find actors to do it. And I felt like when it comes to having such a candid and honest conversation about sex and sexuality, to also simultaneously shy away from nudity because we're embarrassed by it, felt completely disingenuous to the piece.
Right.
And this ultimately is, or I'd like it to be, considered a very sex-positive show.
Absolutely, yeah. And I just think, because they're so intimate, the nudity almost, at least for me, became secondary. And it was really, it's good to hear that they get along and they, work so well together because it's a very intimate piece. Mm-hmm. They're literally intertwined and tangled, and then they're mentally. And so I would imagine that whole chemistry between the three of them had to really be,
There's a lot of trust.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of trust that was built very quickly in the rehearsal process. Ultimately, you also have to maintain your professionality. You know, I mean, and create a. I hate to use the word safe space, but that's what we did. We created a safe space where everybody felt like they were supported and that this really was for the art of it all.
Right.
again, like, nudity can very easily go into this realm of gratuitous,
Sure.
and, for the purposes of titillation only. If I want to see a naked guy, I don't have to write a play about it.
No.
Right,
yeah.
Like there are other ways I can do that. So
Easily.
this is not just for
Easier,
me,
more-
like getting my rocks off, so to speak. Like this, I felt was a story that needed to be told at a time when it's relevant.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's so. I know so many people who have dated couples or who are in open relationships or having this conversation, and so I felt like, yeah, like let's lean into that. Let's go and make it difficult and make it hard for people. It's the nudity is jarring for a lot of the audience members at first. And for the first few minutes, you can tell that there's a little bit of a, I don't want to say discomfort, but an unfamiliarity.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, but I think it works with it. It's hot.
And you get over it.
Yeah,
because,
you get over
again,
it.
because the actors are not like freaking out on stage. Like
Right.
they seem totally comfortable in their skin, and we as the audience see them being totally comfortable in their skin.
Well, ultimately, you wrote a piece that is really generating a lot of conversation. Like I said, my friend and I went, and our whole dinner we were talking about it, and 2 other friends went, and I could see people in the audience as well. So you've definitely caught on to something that's like fresh, relevant now that is making people think about this stuff. So congrats on that.
Thank you. I mean, ultimately, that was the goal. I think, for me, I always want to create theatrical experiences that stay with you. A lot of time you go to theater and you have a lovely 2 hours, and then you leave, and it kind of doesn't sit with you or affect you. For me, like the magic of Afterglow is that once the lights come up and you leave the theater, that's not the end of the experience. That's the beginning, because then you take it home and you sit with it, or you have a conversation with a friend or a lover or a husband or a wife or whatever, and that, to me, that's the power.
The life of it continues, yeah,
Yeah.
which is what art does. So, absolutely. Well, the play is called Afterglow. It's currently here at the Loft.
At the Loft at the Davenport.
At the Davenport, now till September
16th.
And you guys are Monday through
Saturday. We also have a matinee on Saturday. We're dark on Sundays, so you can see other shows then.
Exactly. Well, congratulations. I
you
need
so
to come
much.
and see the new version of it.
Absolutely.
I can't wait. Thank you so much.
Thank you.